Hello and welcome back, or welcome for the first time to Thoughts About Feelings. I'm Blair Imani,
And I'm Mychal Threets.
and today we're here with our friend Kalen Allen.
Hey!
I'm so excited that you're here. You are so fantastic. Let's get right into it.
Yes.
Okay.
We've got some thoughts about feelings. Think of the places we can go and the people we'll meet, the things that we'll see. What do you think? Are you feeling me? Thoughts about feelings.
So we like to ask folks, this is a show about mental health, about good feelings, bad feelings, all the feelings. We like to ask people, how are you? But how are you really? Because sometimes when we ask people how they are, they say, I'm good, and they kind of leave it at that on the surface level. So we're happy to go as deep as you'd like to go today.
I'm great. I've been back in LA now for about a month, but it's been busy and we've been moving. And I think a lot of me and my contentment, I think, is more so rooted in the fact that I just feel like everything is aligning the way that it's supposed to, and I think for me, I've been telling people that I think this part of my life is so different than all the versions of my life that I've lived before. And that right now I feel as though I am living in what happens once you make it over the rainbow, if that makes sense. I think a lot of my journey so far was either built out of survival or needing to prove myself or trying to escape from whatever was happening. And I don't have any of that anymore. I have a lot of serenity and peace, and I love that.
I love that
That's
for you.
awesome.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah, serenity is not something that everybody has, so I'm very jealous, but I'm very happy for you. But we also like to ask people what we call library kid questions. I'm a librarian, so I used to be a children's librarian, so working with a lot of library kids. And you are a social media superstar. Blair is also a social media superstar. So a question for both of you that I think library kids would ask is, how do I go viral?
Oh. Well,
How much time do we have?
first, I don't think the goal should ever be to go viral.
I agree.
I think what is important is I look at what I do as I'm an artist and I create art or I create something that is full of intention and purpose. And because it is rooted from the heart, then that becomes a shared experience with the people watching it. That's what creates virality.
And speaking of libraries, I want to know everybody's favorite library book when they were a kid.
Ooh. Okay. Well, mine was Geronimo. So listen here. So the thing about me is that I love school. I have a problem. Okay. Now, another confession is I have a lot of books. That does not necessarily mean that I read them. That just means that I have them.
And you know
Hey.
what? That's okay.
Now, when I was a kid, though, I read a lot. Specifically, Geronimo Stilton, I had every single book. Like, it was like a series, So, and I would collect each number. And so I think it probably went up to like 50 or something like that.
Yes.
But yes, I had Geronimo Stilton. And of course, I loved a Scholastic book fair. My God, that was the best day. I would just go in there and peruse. And then you get your Captain Underpants, you get all those good classics.
I loved Captain Underpants so much. I was always the kid, so I have ADHD, and I would be the kid that'd be like, write it down in your agenda, and I'd be like, okay, I'm not reading that after I get home. Put my backpack by the door. I always did my homework at school at the library because I have asthma, so I would always skip PE and then go be in the library.
Okay.
But I never had money for the Scholastic Book Fair because I would always forget to tell my parents that the Scholastic Book Fair. I'm like, I'm good for it. I'll come back tomorrow, and they were like, No, Blair, I'm sorry.
It won't be here.
But I loved Captain Underpants, and my favorite things about Captain Underpants was like, they would have like the newspapers inside the book, and then they would be like, "Don't read this; it's gonna hurt your eyes." And I'd like be reading it all the way down to. Now I need glasses, so it's really not the same situation anymore. But I would have to say Captain Underpants, and then Faith Ringgold's "If a Bus Could Talk," which is all about the story of Rosa Parks told through the bus that she sat on during the civil rights movement and during that fight. It doesn't show the full story, right? Because we have to include people like Claudette Colvin and so many other women who were doing similar things outside of the context of organizing. But I love that story because it gave you such a advocacy angle, and it just under the guise of like, it's just a story about a bus.
Right.
It's just about a
That's
bus.
it.
But I think that's what was great about it. Like, I was watching Dragon Tales the other day, and I was like, I forgot they were Hispanic. Because like
Yes.
Kessel was speaking Spanish. I was like, see, diversity was there.
It was here.
It was there.
Yes.
You know, I guess maybe because it just wasn't like you weren't labeling it as such. I don't know. You know, like sometimes I'll be like, do I sound crazy when I'm like, maybe diversity was best when we weren't talking about it.
Well, I feel like it was way less contested at that time. You know, like I wonder if A Bus Could Talk is getting banned in the same way other books that are more overt in their diversity. And I think people who are against it need to realize, yes, it's already been there. Like the Hallmark cards that have like all these different
mahogany.
Yes, the mahogany Hallmark cards. People are against these Hallmark cards right now, and it's bananas because they've been around since the 80s.
Yeah.
It's like, where was this energy before?
Yeah, well, it hasn't even been that long. I mean, we're filming this today on September 8th, and today is Ruby Bridges' birthday. Ruby Bridges turned 71 years old today. Ruby Bridges, the first person to desegregate an all-white public school in Louisiana.
And still living and breathing.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, she's younger than my dad. Yeah. No shade to my dad. What was your favorite library book when you were a kid?
I have so many favorite library books as a kid. I have my entire left arm is tattooed with various book characters. But I loved everything about Beverly Cleary. I love that Beverly Cleary was a children's librarian. That's why she first started writing about Ramona and Beezus and Ralphus Mouse and Henry Huggins and the whole gang. I love Louis Sacker. I have two cats. One of their names is Machine Gun Kitty, and the other's named is Kissin' Cat Barlow. Okay. And she is named after the villain in Holes, not the villain, the outlaw in Holes. So I am a true. I love Wayside School. I love all the unhinged nature of all those kids in that very giant tower of classrooms. I love everything. I think Bud Not Buddy by Christopher Paul Curtis.
I love Bud Not Buddy.
That was the first book where I ever saw myself in the cover of a book.
Okay, now that you said that, you know the first book that I saw myself was I think Ezra Scott Key's.
Oh, yes.
Remember the snow?
Snowy Day?
Yeah, Snowy Day.
Oh, especially growing up in Kansas City.
I know, right? Because it's snow all the time. I don't know. I guess I don't know what school is like, of course, nowadays. But like, library was a huge thing in elementary. I don't know. Like, we were always there.
I mean, I was especially always there because of my asthma. Like, I think I have exercise-induced asthma, and it got better as I got older, but I would always be in the library. I'd be like, okay, Blair, you go to the library. And then I would have this rotation of kids who, like, maybe had just got a surgery done, so they had to be in the library with me, or the Muslim kids came to the library because, you know, they were doing Ramadan. And so it was like, I was like, hi, captive friends. You know, now we have to hang out.
Now, see, I used to be able to get, so I was in the gifted program. And so, you know, you had to block out a certain part of time in the day to be able to go and do like the gifted stuff. And so I always said, well, take me out to PE. I said, I don't want to be there. You know what I mean?
Hard pass.
I mean, but now I think back on it and how expensive gym memberships are these days. I'm like, you know, I really should have maximized my PE time. You know.
Hindsight,
you're not on board.
Hindsight's a dangerous thing.
No, honey, this is LA. You want to work out for cheap? Go to Venice Beach.
Fair enough. Fair
like
enough.
there's plenty of places to find it where
Just
it ain't
walk
expensive.
outside.
Everybody ain't got to go to Equinox.
Fair enough.
And you also mentioned Dragon Tales. Did you grow up on PBS? And is Dragon Tales your favorite PBS show?
Oh my gosh! Listen, there was two things. I was a Disney Channel kid and a PBS Kids kid. I watched it nonstop. I mean, okay, so Dragon Tales, Barney, Caillou, even though he's bad as hell, Between the Lions.
I loved that one.
Love Cyber Chase. Actually, you know, I tested out of math once I got to college, and I truly think I was good at math because of Cyber Chase. Because I really learned so much from watching Hackard and all them acting crazy. I remember Ruff. The Ruffman.
Ruffman.
Yeah, Ruffman.
Oh my gosh.
Love that show.
So they're rebooting the show.
They are?
And they're
really?
interviewing people, like, and it's a show for adults. I'm going to connect you with their producing team.
Oh my God. I love Ruffman.
I was able to film an episode with them, and I was talking about, like, you know, social media and, like, the pros and cons of social media.
Yes.
I feel like you could talk to them about television.
Absolutely. I used to love, you know, the little moments that would happen that was like the real world in between like the episodes and stuff like that. Loved it. I mean, quality work.
100%.
Really quality work.
It is.
And so much.
Maya and Miguel.
That was a great one, too.
It's Maya, Miguel. What's about?
I feel like PBS is so under attack. Like we were talking about the diversity in books. And the more that we talk about PBS, the more that we talk about how much it meant to us and continues to mean to us, the more we can encourage people to look up their local affiliates and donate to those local affiliates. Down here in Southern California, it's PBS SoCal. What is it near you?
In the Bay Area, it's KQED.
Okay.
KQED. And then there's WGBH, which is in Boston.
In Boston, yes.
And they make
Arthur.
Molly of Denali. They make Arthur. They make so many different shows. But they're out here providing this education for free, and then they're not selling anything to kids on top of it, which I think is so sacred and so important, and we should just keep funding it. But
well,
people in charge don't agree.
I think what you're saying though is I think it's a bigger issue. I think it goes far beyond PBS Kids. I think it goes to we are now in a era to where kids don't have kid programming at all.
No.
It is straight to they have access to the same things that we have access to. And I think that's very different than when we were growing up, to where we live these separate type, like even when you think about Facebook back then. I remember when Facebook came out and it was only for college students. Like if you didn't have a college email, you couldn't access Facebook, you know? And now it's become more of a mature audience, you know. So I think what has happened, because I saw somebody talking about the other day, and we were talking about how there's no content for tweens. You know, we were talking about Disney Channel, and we were talking about how you had Hannah Montana and you had That's So Raven, you had all these things, and now those don't really exist anymore. You don't have tween magazines, you know. So I think there needs to be also a conversation of why have we started to not be interested in family, you know, content. Why have we leaned to not be inclusive in that way, to also make content that feeds the children of the world?
100%. I feel like, and maybe this is, Mychal, you just starting to be living in my brain, like one of the only places that does that is the library. Like these librarians create curated lists for kids to be able to and then you go to a library, and most libraries have their own reading area for the kids, and they have their own separate space to be kids amongst kids. And it's like one of those spaces where you don't have to constantly monitor, which you should still do as a parent or as a caregiver, as a guardian. But a library, I feel like, is a really safe space for that to still happen. And PBS is one of those places where that happens. But all those places are being eroded. And I feel like it's adultifying the kids.
Yes.
And it's putting them sometimes in peril because they don't have safety.
Well, I think kids aren't allowed to be kids anymore. It's like you have to kind of like grow up there, because you're trying to be trendy. You're trying to fit in. You're trying to live up to what you can see on your phone or online. You know what I mean? Now, I do have a question about libraries. It's been a while since I stepped into one. My question is, do you feel as though, because now when you can access a book on your phone or your tablet, are kids still going to libraries and actually wanting to pick up a physical book?
Kids, teens, and adults go to library all the time. The libraries are packed all the time. Summer reading numbers are higher than ever because they finally started including adults in the summer reading challenges. They also want a prize as an incentive for reading. But yeah, so many kids are still picking up Geronimo Stilton. They're picking off the spinoff of Thea Stilton. You went from Captain Underpants, now you have Dogman. So Dave Pilkey is still the king. And I would honestly say in the last probably 5 or 6 years, so many people of color, so many people who are LGBTQI+ have been finally telling their stories in book form. So there's finally a chance for more and more kids. You talk about how much they struggle and how much they don't get to be kids. They finally have a chance to see themselves in books, to see their problems addressed in books. So more so than ever, I would say people are using libraries. And also, I think there's so many digital resources. There's Libby by Overdrive. There's Hoopla Digital to get your free books, free audio books. But not everybody has access to a phone. They don't have access to Wi-Fi hotspots. People are still living in extreme poverty. They have no access to Spotify, to Netflix, to Hulu. So where do they go? They go to the local library where they can get all those things for free. They can borrow them for a few weeks. You meet your friendly neighborhood librarians. Goodbye, Spider-Man. Hello, librarians. And they're going to help you out as much as possible. So I get asked that question all the time, and it's a totally valid question just because people don't know what the library is all about. And we just haven't been talking about the library loud enough. I have a very small library voice. I very much have that quiet library voice to me, but I think very loud when I talk about library joy and I talk about what the library means for everybody. I have a library card tattooed on me. We talked about PBS. I've got Arthur Reed's library card.
Yes, I love
tattooed.
that. I mean, when I think about, I also spent a lot of time at the library when I was growing up. And I think my favorite part, which is probably why I do what I do now, is like my access was through the movies and DVD section.
Sure.
Like I used to go over there and would rent movies
Yes.
nonstop, and would even especially like I love a Disney World. Like I used to rent the sing along videos of like the characters going through the park. Like loved it. Like that's what I would go, and
Nice.
I think what it was amazing to me about the library was that it felt like a place with a whole bunch of different portals into different worlds
Yes.
that I could get in one place.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it provided to me.
That's amazing. I love that.
Mychal, how do you feel when you're hungry? Sleepy or cranky? Maybe less energized and focused to get you through the day?
All of the above.
Exactly, right. Did you know that for 1 in 5 kids in the US, that's a reality they face? That's nearly 14 million kids in the United States living with hunger.
That's far too many children starting their day without the fuel they need to grow, to learn, and to just be kids.
But No Kid Hungry is working to change that. They're helping schools and community organizations nationwide ensure children have access to meals both in and out of the classroom, including during the summer months.
Because when kids are nourished, they shine. You can see it in their confidence, in their schoolwork, in the way they show up not just for themselves, but for each other.
Ending childhood hunger takes all of us. We each have a strength to share, our voices, our time, and our resources.
And together we can make sure every child grows up healthy, happy, and strong. Visit nokidhungry.org to learn how you can help.
And we're back.
Yes.
I've used the bathroom, and for those who are listening, I'm pregnant. And
I
you-
knew
you
something
have
was
to
happening
go to
because
the
I saw you
bathroom.
rubbing.
Yes.
I was like, something happening.
Well, it's not just that I had to go, it's that sometimes she kicks me right in the pelvis,
Ooh.
which is where the bladder is.
Ooh.
And it's like tiny little sweet little kicks, but it's
Uh-huh.
also so weird. And you just gotta go.
Do you feel like
No
you can talk
choice.
to the baby? Like, can you like your head like
This
send
morning-
signals?
So it's very good, like neurodevelopmentally for the baby to hear voices and to hear music.
Mhm.
And so I have to be really mindful as the baby moves to be like, okay, this is a great time for her to hear grandma's voice or grandpa's voice or my husband's voice. And so he was on like a business call, and I was like, this is great because it's not a video call. He's talking a lot right now. The baby's awake. So I just literally stood up and put my belly in front of him so that way he could talk and the
You
baby
think-
could get
so
used to the voice.
Do they know for sure? So like all that level of skin and body, they can hear through that?
They can
Or is
hear
it like
it's-
muffled?
It's a little bit muffled.
Mhm.
You do have to be careful. So I really like concerts. I like going to rock concerts, and I really wanted to go to Monster Jam, like the Monster Truck Rally.
Okay.
There are 2 reasons I couldn't go as a pregnant person. One, there's too much exhaust, you know,
Yeah.
and then it's also too loud. So
Yeah.
after a certain level of decibels, it can start harming the baby's
Sure.
hearing.
Ooh.
So you do have
Yeah.
to be cautious, and I have to like Google everything because I was like on a speedboat, and then I was like, I wonder if that's a safe pregnant activity while I'm on the speedboat. Turns
On
out
the
no.
boat.
So
Best intentions.
you really got to look
That
up
is
stuff ahead
very
of
on
time.
brand for you.
It is, but I'm trying to do the check, verify, and then do. But again, it's hard with the ADHD and when you're a whimsical girl.
You just like, let's go.
Literally.
I'm like, uh-oh. Something ain't right, y'all. Slow it down. First of all, y'all should have told me before I got my tail on this boat that I shouldn't have got on.
Right. I think the other thing is they didn't really know I was pregnant until I took off my sundress and got into my bathing suit, and they were like, "Oh, ma'am." But
Wow.
other than that, being pregnant has been pretty cool. But it's definitely is my first experience being, pregnant to this level. And so I'm just, trying to take it day by day. And sometimes I got to run to the toilet.
Well, hey.
But it does, you were talking about LGBT folks coming to the library, and I
Yes.
thought about the first time I met you, and I think it was either at an event. There's a few times because we were kind of in the same spaces in LGBTQ plus advocacy spaces, and I remember seeing you at Love Loud. And this was such a long time ago, but you still stayed true to the advocacy, and we were even asking you before we started filming about your advocacy around trans issues and being a grand marshal for the Trans Latina Coalition. And to you, I mean, you were just like, well, of course I would do that. I'd love
Yeah.
if you could talk more about it.
Well, the thing about Love Loud is I'm actually on the board for the Love Loud Foundation. But I think, especially I have 2 soft spots. I think first is children. And I think second is anyone that exists within this queer universe or whatever. And I think it's because, one, specifically, I think growing up in Kansas, I just knew what it was like not having those resources. You know what I mean? And so I think I'm always on a mission to try and expose people to what the resources are or the ways that they can also get involved and help. You know what I mean? And I think just in general, I am a connector. You know what I mean? I don't think I'm necessarily the best person to be on the front lines. I don't know if that's my spirit, but I am good at connecting to people that do have that drive and that ambition and getting them in touch with the right people. I think I'm always trying to make sure that I am elevating people to be able to do the work that they need to do to the best of their ability.
Yeah, we all have to figure out a role that we can play in making the world less terrible. We were talking about this on a few episodes now. And I think sometimes that frontline position is really coveted, is really aspired towards. I remember when I was in college, I was like, that's what you got to do. You got to get arrested. You got to protest. And then I did that. And I was like, my anxiety, and this is not compatible. This is not sustainable for me. But even after that, it took me a long time to figure out a different way. And so whether it's through advocating for libraries and PBS or connecting people and shining a light on these different topics or educating folks about what's wrong in the first place so that they can, take action. We're all doing that in different ways, and it's all necessary because we all have to pitch in.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's necessary, especially I think when you have some type of platform or, accessibility of that way, you have to be able to use it to be able to make the world a better place. Yes. You know what I mean? And it doesn't have to be huge. That can be small. That can be little small steps to get us closer.
I think we all have the power to change the world, to make a difference, to be better. Yes. I think one of the best ways to do that is through learning, is through education. You talked about how much you love school. You seem like you're a very, very eloquent, very well-educated person. And correct me if I'm wrong, you just got your master's in journalism not too long ago?
I did. I just got my master's. Thank you.
That's amazing.
Yes, I got it from NYU.
Nice. How do you feel about that?
I feel relieved that it's done. It was really easy for me, though.
Nice.
And that's the thing. I've always been very good at school. What I'm trying to do now is not go back to school. I think that's the challenge here. There's been times at night I'd be on my laptop and then all of a sudden I'm looking up, doctoral programs, and I'm like, oh, I don't know about that. Like, if I were to go back to school for something, there are two things. One, it would be culinary school. Two, I would go back to be a therapist to people that are public figures or that have any type of notoriety.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's really important. Our friend Allison Stoner, who's also going to be on the show, is doing a lot of work around mental health, especially folks in the public eye, and it's so necessary. But that reminds me of your, can we call them roots? When you were doing social media at the beginning, like how has that shift been? Because, it's so interesting. So people know Mychal as a library guy. They know me as a Smarter in Seconds lady. We all have these different monikers. But I remember like you used to do these like reactions. Sometimes you'll bring it back, and I love it. It's nostalgic for me.
Every now and then.
But how has that evolution been? Because we are so many people over the course of our lives, and we continue to grow and evolve and change, but sometimes you have to introduce your audience to that. So what has that experience like been for you?
Well, I think what's interesting to me is like when that all happened, like TikTok didn't exist. So like even the creative world as we know it today was not a thing. Like then you had like YouTubers, you had Patrick Stars and you had your Bretman Rocks and you had those people. And that was like, even that to me didn't even have as much significance that today's creator world does. So I think the thing that's so interesting to me is like, for instance, I don't consider myself to be an influencer. I consider myself to be a creator only because that's like the thing that makes the most sense. But the reason why I don't consider myself to be an influencer is because one, I like to go to work and go home. I don't like the world having to know every bit of my everyday life in order to feel some type of connection to me. That's not what I grew up to be. I grew up to be an entertainer. So I like to do my work and I like to go home.
Kalen, I'm laughing though because when you have your travel diaries, I be checking every single post.
Yeah, but see, that kind of stuff, that's not curated.
Yeah,
you know
feel
what I mean? Like,
yeah.
that's just me in the moment, and I'm just expressing what is happening, because I have like this travel curse, and every time I travel, something go wrong.
And it's,
so, like,
it's the most entertaining 24-hour period for us.
crazy.
For you, it's hell. For me, I'm like,
but I think that's the shared experience.
Yeah.
Like, and I think for me, it's all about creating real connection with people. That's something that everybody can relate to.
And I think it's different too, because you're talking about it and you're not afraid of like, you know, pissing off an airline. Like sometimes when the influencer thing, you're just being real.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge difference.
Just
Sorry
like
to cut
my
you
rant
off.
to Best Buy. You know, like, but I think that's because that's what's missing in the world. I think what's missing is everybody is performing. Everybody is putting on this face and giving a show. And I don't want to be that. You know, I want to be, that's why I don't like to do mainly like the food reviews. That's why I don't do them as much, because what was happening was that because people knew that I would react to it, then they would just make crazy stuff. And I'm like, people are out here starving and y'all wasting food for views and likes. You know, like that kind of stuff aggravates me. Like, it's different for me to watch like an actual recipe that you wanted to make, that you just put some weird stuff in, but nobody's drinking a hot dog martini. You know, like, it's not happening. You know, so like when I'm seeing like just silly stuff, I can't come up with things to say that's going to entertain you. Instead, I'm gonna be like, this is stupid. This is silly. You know what I mean? And so and even though you may think of it being like, well, it's not that deep. It's that deep for me. You know what I mean? That's the way that I look at it. I'm always like, are we wasting time? Or are we just doing something to do it? I don't like to do anything, just do it. You know, if my goal in life were to be super famous and super rich, then yeah, I could have just kept doing reaction videos and let that be my niche and would have been doing brand deals and brand dolls. But that's not what my heart is leaning towards. What I want to be is a talk show host, which was why I went and got the journalism degree, you know, and then I already had a theater degree and a film degree, and I'd already worked at the Ellen DeGeneres show, and I already done a podcast with Ricky Lake. I was already around Oprah Winfrey. I was like, this is what feels right to me. It's what I've always wanted to do since I was a kid. Man. And it's like, sometimes I don't think people understand is that, yes, I may be a public figure with a lot of followers, but my life is not for you. I decide what my life is. Yeah. And you can choose if you want to stay or go. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it doesn't make me any nevermind, because when I leave this world, the only person I want to be satisfied with is myself.
Wow.
Ooh, amen.
Absolutely. Now, I love listening to you and like listening to your insight and your perspective. And like while I'm listening, I just admire your confidence in yourself. That's something that not many people have. So I'm just curious, have you always been this confident since you were a kid? Is it something that you've had to grow into, or are you just bam, I'm confident all the way?
I've always been
that's who you are through and through.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. I made a post. You know, I don't have imposter syndrome. You know, and I was telling, and I do think imposter syndrome is real. However, I do think for some people it is a way to kind of justify not being given the right resources or not being given belief. I think sometimes people use imposter syndrome as a way to make people dumb themselves down.
I completely agree with this. I've gone so off when it comes to talking about imposter syndrome because it was originally discussed in the 1970s and 80s as the imposter phenomenon, and it was looking in women who got to these high-reaching positions. This was a time when there were sexual harassment laws, civil rights laws, and women were able to actually access higher positions in the workforce outside of being a secretary, which no shade to that, but it kind of took aspects of the glass ceiling that still exists away. And they were finding that these women, who, by the way, had been told their whole lives that they should never be in charge, that they should never take a leadership position, and suddenly they get into that position and they feel like, oh, I don't deserve this. Then you go and blame the person for feeling that way instead of the whole system and entire society that told them that they should feel that way.
Exactly.
I would love to have you on a Smarter in Seconds about imposter syndrome.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Listen, that's true. It is absolutely true, because I remember when I first started at Ellen, I remember a producer said to me, they were like, audience really love it when you self-deprecate, when you talk. And I said, now, why would I do that? I said, you want me to make fun of myself and talk down on myself so that other people can be entertained? I said, yeah, no, that's not happening. That's the
It's
wrong
not- it's
person.
not you.
Every room that I walk in, every opportunity that I have, every job that I take, I know for certain I am there because I can do the job. There is no doubt. There is no fear. There's no lack of confidence.
Man.
I am here to do it. And to speak a little bit about, asking, did I have to come in? I don't think I had a choice. I was a queer boy growing up in Kansas City. Any sign of weakness would have got me out of here. So I had to be confident because people left me alone.
Yeah.
Because people that, especially bullies, they look for weakness.
Yes.
It's like that's what they thrive off of. It's because you respond. It's because you have a reaction that they lean into it. You know what I mean? And me, because I was always unbothered, and it was just like, I'm gonna meet you where you are. You left me alone.
Huh.
So it's also yes, maybe it is a little bit of created from trauma, and needing to survive. But it's also just, I think I'm very fortunate about that. Sometimes I get emotional because I think back in the past and I can like visually see myself as a kid in different instances, whether that's like in a library or sitting down. And the thing that makes me so emotional is I look at that kid and I'm like, you knew who you could be and you believed it. And you had the audacity to chase it and to do it regardless of what anybody else said. That is the greatest gift that I've given myself, is to be a child and to look at this world and decide that regardless of what the world said I was or who I could be, I was going to be what I wanted to be, and I did it. There is nothing, I wouldn't change one thing about my life. Even the hard stuff, even the saddest moments of my life, I would not change them because they were all necessary for me to become who I am. And that's the greatest gift.
That's so beautiful. I feel like that takes us full circle because you're talking about how you felt, how you really felt. And you're in this era now where you feel like you've come over the rainbow. Like you're just kind of basking in all that you've built and continuing to evolve and to grow. And I wish that on everyone. I feel like that's something everybody should be able to experience. And the level of self-belief that you've achieved is something that everybody hopefully will be able to attain. Do you have any tips for folks who maybe are struggling with stepping into their power?
I think the first step to stepping into your power is believing that you have it. And I think also you have to learn how to live your life for you and to stop sacrificing the best parts of you for somebody else's comfort or acceptance or validation. You have to truly embrace everything that you are and make sure that every movement that you make is not only benefiting the people around you, but it's also pouring into yourself and doing what you need to do in order to make your dreams and aspirations, come true. That's what I think. I mean, I think that for both of you all, I think you've done extraordinary work and you figured out like who you are and you stand in it firmly. There are so many people out in this world who are trying to be carbon copies of the person next to them. That is boring. I think about it just like, me being on Broadway. I think about it all the time. I tell people all the time, if you go to an audition, right, everybody comes in and they sing Defying Gravity the exact same way. Why would I cast you? Why? It's not about talent. It's about uniqueness. It's about being different. Being different is your superpower. That is your magic. If you are just like everybody else, I don't care. But if I love and I thrive around people that have autonomy and that have individuality, I love it. I'm like, I want you as weird and as kooky and as different as you want to be. And I want you to stand in it fully and just live. That's the power. And once you unlock that, the magical things you can do. Like I think of like, when you think about like somebody like a Beyonce, you think of an Oprah Winfrey. And I watch these people and I'm like, they are completely surrendering to their purpose and their weirdness. You know what I mean? People probably talked about Beyonce, about she worked too much. Yeah. All she want to do is write a song. All she want to do is be in the studio. She don't want to go out. She don't want to have fun. But look at her. because she had a purpose and a mission, and she stayed true to that, regardless of what everybody else was doing. And this is who she gets to be. That is incredible. That is, and even when I think about like music, or we're talking about like sometimes when I'm like if I listen to like the Hercules soundtrack, I'm like, when they were in there making this, they had no idea that it would stand the test of time. I'm like, there are so many celebrities and like artists that I meet that have no idea of the significance of the gift that they have given through art. I think art is like the fact that we can create something, and when we are long gone, it will still be here. Yeah. That is phenomenal. When I went to Greece and I'm walking around, I'm looking at all these ruins, I'm like, you did the unthinkable, and that has influenced generations. That's the greatest gift that we can give to the world, you know?
I'm going to start crying.
Yeah, I know.
So beautiful. Is it the pregnancy hormones? Maybe. Is it because that was really powerful? Also, yes.
Well, I'm not pregnant, and I'm sitting here wanting to cry. So, what does that say?
Oh, I appreciate it.
I'm so glad to have you on the show because I think people need a beacon of hope. They need somebody to, not necessarily to aspire to be like, but they need somebody to encourage them to be themselves. And I feel like that's something that you do so incredibly well. I feel like that's something that Mychal does. I think that's something that all of the friends that we've had on Thoughts About Feelings do. But I feel like you've really just given empowering, you've put a fine point on it, and I'm definitely going to play that part of the podcast back when I'm postpartum and in my struggles.
Yeah, I love that. You know, it's funny you say that. I think I've always told people that I never wanted people to look at me and feel relatable to like what clothes I wear or what car I drove or what house I lived in. I wanted people to relate to the dreamer in me. I wanted people to look at my life and my career and the work that I did and looked at it where I came from and was like, and would look at me and say, if he can do it, I can too. That's all that I care about. That's all that I want. Is just for no matter who you are, no matter what age or where you come from, is that you believe that the impossible is possible.
Well, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Thoughts About Feelings. We just had a very powerful conversation with the wonderful Kalen Allen. We've learned so much. We've been inspired to be more confident, to find our purpose. And as always, it's okay to not be okay. You are not alone. Perhaps you're still trying to find your purpose. You're trying to embrace your differences. You're trying to be more confident. And I think I have some great book recommendations to help you on that journey. They are Rock My Soul by Bell Hooks.
Oh, that's a good one.
You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. The Courage to Be Disliked, the Japanese phenomenon that shows you how to change your life and achieve real happiness by Ichiro Kashimi and Fumitake Koga. And the last one is All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson.
George M. Johnson, yes. They're banning that book for a reason. It's so powerful.
Okay,
you need
I love
to read
George.
that one. Shout out to George.
Yes, George.
Great human being.
So thank you so much again for listening to this episode, for watching this episode. Make sure you stay up with our friend Kalen Allen, of course, with Mychal Threets, and with me, Blair, Imani. We hope that you subscribe. We hope that you continue to tune in. But more than anything, we hope that you continue to stay one day at a time because you're worth it, you deserve it, and we love you. Bye.
We've got some thoughts about feelings. Think of the places we can go and the people we'll meet, the things that we'll see. What do you think? Are you feeling me? Thoughts about feelings. All the ideas we can share with the fabulous friends and Mychal and Blair. We'll think about our feelings everywhere with thoughts about feelings. Thoughts about feelings.